What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the channel. And there's one thing that this roller coaster of a 2021 Mets season has told us, it's that significant changes need to be had come the offseason. Whether that's upper management, managerial, roster configuration, you name it, changes are going to be had for this team for the better so they can be in the spot where they were supposed to be this year and the years going forward under Steve Cohen in ownership. But the bigger question has always been, who holds the cards here? Who's the one that's going to have the significant say in these hires to get the right people in place for management and beyond to make the right moves going forward? But here we have Tim Healy for the New York Mets. Last night, at the time of recording this, came out with a report that says the following: how Sandy Alderson, team president for the New York Mets, is in fact coming back for the offseason and the 2022 year, at least according to sources familiar with the situation and have an understanding of the thinking process for Steve Cohen at this point in time. So that's what I'll be breaking down in today's video, everything there is to know about this report, my initial reaction to it, whether it's a positive or negative or feeling in between, what exactly Sandy Alderson's position with the Mets has been to this point, and what it will be going in the offseason, which is significant and different at the same time, and how it's going to really shape up the Mets going forward. So as always, guys, make sure you stay all the way till the end of the video. Final deets and all my thoughts on Sandy Alderson, this report, what it means for the Mets. And if you guys end up enjoying this kind of Mets content and you want to see more great Mets content like this, please do not hesitate from smashing that like and subscribe button, sharing this video with your friends, on the notification bell, all those great things. Thank you so much for the continued support, guys. Now, without further ado, let's jump right into this video. And of course, guys, I highly suggest you check out Tim Healy's article in the description down below to get a further breakdown from this source, actually. And if you don't want to check it out, however, because there is a paywall, I'm going to warn you guys, then you can check out another article that I have right below it, and that's going to be Pat Ragazzo, who covers the New York Mets in an affiliate through Sports Illustrated. Does a great job, did a great job summarizing Tim Healy's comments and truly what Sandy Alderson's impact will be. But no less, Sandy Alderson, you either love him, hate him, feel in between. His second time around with the Mets now under Steve Cohen as team president, and I know there's a big group of you guys, I've seen them in my live stream chats and my comments almost every single day, that Sandy has to go. He's the reason for the Mets' lack of success this year. He's the reason why they're mediocre. He's the reason why the Mets made only certain trades at the trade deadline. He's done a terrible job making all the moves. He controls everything. Zach Scott, the acting GM for the Mets, is an absolute puppet. Literally, he's just being pulled on the strings as if his hair's getting pulled. And then you have Sandy Alderson as actually Ratatouille in the movie, if you guys know the reference. But no less, you have that group. Then you also have the other group that understands that Sandy Alderson's position on the Mets right now is not to be active in baseball operations every single day, and is aware of what he might be in fault for, what he is not in fault for the most part, with the Mets' lack of success to this point. And I find myself more on that side. But again, guys, if you're feeling one way or another, I perfectly understand it, but I refrain from you commenting in the comments below about if you're in favor, against it, until you hear what I'm about to say, because there's been a huge misconception, a huge lack of knowledge really on what Sandy Alderson's role has been for the Mets since they acquired him in the offseason. So as we know, Sandy, team president of the Mets, comes in with Steve Cohen, and already they had numerous barriers they were facing and could not even jump over, and that was starting off with their approach to help upper management. Because as we know, Sandy Alderson and the Mets, the first thing that they wanted to address when Steve Cohen came in as owner was to get a president of baseball operations, and they simply were not able to do so because you have Steve Cohen come in. He's the richest owner in the MLB right away from an individual perspective, but he also comes off intimidating to a certain extent because you have this rich owner in baseball now in a big market who's actually going to pay up and actually act like a big market club, rightfully so, finally, right? And you have teams that have young, fresh mind executives from either the Tampa Bay Rays, the Brewers, the A's, teams that are more analytically driven and are having success, that don't want to part ways with those executives that the Mets definitely would love to have interviewed for those positions. So because of the team's reluctancy to part ways with their young minds, the Mets from the jump were already in a slim situation to get a guy that they wanted. And Sandy Alderson made note of that during the offseason, saying that it's something we didn't initially expect. We didn't know that our options for executives to be hired in upper management and GM would be so slim, but they were, and that again was all in hand with the intimidation to an extent. But no less, the Mets already from the jump were not able to get their exact number one guy to their liking, what Sandy would have liked to pick, and that's awfully similar to Luis Rojas, the manager for the Mets, not being the number one pick during Brodie Van Wagenen's time in the Wilpons. Because if you guys don't know, Rojas, when he came into manager for the Mets, he wasn't originally the first pick. It was going to be Carlos Beltran, the former New York Met, no less, right after he retired. But then you have the Astros cheating scandal come out, and then he went away. The Mets chose to go with Rojas instead, who was already a manager in the minor leagues for the Mets. So now we go back here to Sandy Alderson, similar situation. So they end up hiring Jared Porter, GM, who was originally assistant GM for the Diamondbacks, and that didn't last last too long because as we know, there were scandals that came out with Porter not looking good outside of the Mets before he actually came to the Mets, no less, but it was not brought up to anyone for the most part. That's why they fired him on the spot. Then they ended up hiring Zach Scott at that point, who originally was trying to become GM for the Mets, but did not get in the offseason, so he was hired as an assistant. Comes in as the acting GM once Jared Porter is released. If you guys don't know, they both grew up together and were friends during their time in the Red Sox organization under Theo Epstein. And then when Jared Porter went on to be with the Cubs, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and then you had Zach Scott stay as the analytics guru with the Reds for the most part. But now here we are, fast forwarding. Sandy Alderson, who's not supposed to be involved in baseball operations, was forced his hand in the offseason to a certain extent, and then beginning of one, find the president of baseball operations could not do that, so he had to be more active when being the GM, and also hiring Jared Porter. Then when Jared Porter was gone, it had to be the acting GM then, and then he brought in Zach Scott, but he still had to try to help pave the way a little bit at least. But now here we have Zach Scott isn't even with the Mets right now because he's on a leave of absence from a DUI that happened over the past month. He has a court hearing, I think, first week of October, if my memory serves me correct. But Sandy's now the current GM because of it. Not something that he wants to do. He never wanted to sign up for this, but the Mets literally don't have any other choice. So now there's a couple gripes you could potentially give Sandy Alderson in this spot. If you want to give one, it's the fact that one of the two assistant GMs right now is his son, and it's a little bit of a shaky thing just because there is a conflict of interest there. So while I don't love that, especially given his son, his background is more in scouting development for the Mets over the past year, from what I've seen, it still is a little, hazy situation if you ask me. I can understand if you have a criticism there, but to be one of those fans to say that, oh, Zach Scott hasn't had any control whatsoever is just downright foolish in my mind, because even when you look at the trade deadline, Sandy Alderson openly said after they acquired Javi Baez, Trevor Williams, that yes, we in fact acquired these players, but I didn't have a say. I was from the outside looking in. Zach Scott was the one doing all the heavy lifting here, and rightfully so. That's his job as a GM, and as a team president, Sandy's focused more on the business side. So whether you think that's a lie or whatever, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But until proven otherwise, I'm going to stand by the notion that Sandy isn't involved in everyday baseball operations up until this point. Now that he literally has to be GM with Zach Scott away, because it's never his intentions. The guy's had health issues, as we know, which led him to leaving the Mets originally. And he's 74 years of age. He wants to be focused on building the best upper management he possibly can, to put in the right guys to make the right decisions for the roster configuration, for the trades, for the signings, for everything in between. That is Sandy's job. So now here we are in a year with full of a lack thereof consistency, and you have Luis Rojas. What his future holds, we'll see. I definitely think he's gone after the season, but no less, you'd have to wonder how much of Zach Scott as a GM being involved analytically with the shift, all that stuff, how much has that one in hand with the actual decisions of Rojas? Something we don't have an answer to. They have told us in the presser from Zach Scott himself that he doesn't have any say in the lineup configuration for the Mets. That's all Rojas. Now, I hope that's true, but in the scenario where it isn't, that's something that we're never going to know. So if Zach Scott, that's part of the reason too. I don't think he's going to come back. Again, we'll see. But Sandy Alderson's goal now is he has to deal with the Zach Scott situation, which they don't have answers to at this point in time. But I'm sure they will either release him or go about things once the offseason begins. But according to these reports, now the biggest thing for Sandy going forward is to hire a big name president of baseball operations, and the name has been floated out there in Theo Epstein. We talked about him here on the channel. Make sure to check it out in the description down below, as you guys see here if you haven't already, as I broke down Theo and what the potential impact he would have on the Mets should they be able to hire him this offseason. Again, that would be a huge big name hire for them, but there are other names that are flowing out there as well. But no less, Sandy is now in a position what he's supposed to be doing, what he's been for the majority of the year. But again, he doesn't want to be involved in baseball ops. He's not supposed to be doing that every day. His goal is to bring in a president of baseball operations, and they're already having discussions about making that come to reality, because you got to do it fast. Then you got to figure out your GM situation, whether you keep Zach Scott, which I don't think is happening at this point, bring in a new GM, which the president of baseball operations would have a say in as well. And then you get on to what do you do with Rojas on manager, and of course the winter meetings, the offseason, trades, free agency. You got to get all these things done ahead of time, and the Mets simply had no time this past offseason to do it, because when Steve Cohen came in as owner and the approval took so long, Sandy Alderson came as president, they had no time. Winter meetings already began, and he had to start acting. So again, you look at the situation with the Mets the past year, a lot has gone wrong, but I do not do not believe the notion of blaming everything on Sandy Alderson whatsoever. And while I definitely have my concerns with him, and if you want to gripe about Jared Porter, if you want to gripe about Zach Scott, those hires, you surely can, given the fact that they haven't gone smoothly by any means whatsoever but you also have to take into consideration those were not the Mets' first picks. Their hands were tied. Not just Steve Cohen, Sandy Alderson. Their hands were tied. And when you're in a situation like that, when you don't have options, you just have to settle with what you can. It's an evaluation year for Cohen. It's an evaluation year to an extent for Sandy. They're going to learn from their wrongs. They're hopefully going to get the executives that should be available, the younger minds this offseason, get them in, and then they will have plenty of time, hopefully, after those hires, going into winter meetings, so everything can be structured and laid out flat right in front of them, all planned out, something that wasn't the case this last offseason because of how long it took for Cohen to come in and ownership, the approval, all those different things from getting the votes from other teams to actually be approved and all that stuff. So again, that's just my take in a nutshell right now. I'm not sold on the notion of Sandy coming in as the coming in again for another year, but I will say I have optimism more than anything because I've never been under the belief that he has been the sole reason why the Mets have had all these problems all year long. Before we go any further, I want to thank BetQL for sponsoring today's video. Want to get an advantage over your sportsbook? You need to download BetQL, the only app you'll need to make smart bets. Their best bet computer model scans over 350,000 unique bets per year to give you the best bet recommendation for every game across all major sports and gives you the reasoning behind why you should place the bet. Their model covers everything from spreads, over-unders, and player prop bets. And if you don't want to use the model, prefer to do your own research, BetQL has all the necessary tools for your research needs. There is sharp data so you can see who the pros are backing, line movements so you can jump on the betting opportunities in real time, team summaries highlighting previous success against the spread and the over-under, and team lineup breaking news and injury status updates. Plus, you can save all your picks in one place to track your success and winning streaks, as well as view your rank on their leaderboards. So head to the App Store or Google Play Store right now to download BetQL. You can also head to try.betql.co/Wardy to get started now. Enter discount code Wardy at payment checkout for 25% off any of their subscription offerings. You can, of course, find all this information in the description down below. Make sure to check out their BetMGM offer in the description in order to receive a free year of BetQL. Also, check out their sportsbook offerings if you live in one of the eligible states to claim free offers upon signing up at one of the many sportsbook listings. Don't miss out on the chance to beat your sportsbook this football season. And once again, shout out BetQL for sponsoring today's video. Guys, please make sure again to check them out in the description down below if you too are trying to get an advantage on your sportsbook today for this upcoming football season that has already begun. But to close out this video, guys, again, thank you all so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I expect a lot of back and forth, people being happy about this, people being upset about this, people being mad about it, in between. Whatever your thoughts or feelings are, please let me know, as always, whether we agree or disagree. I love having these discussions because they need to be had, because this is a significant move for the Mets heading in the offseason, knowing that you're still going to have Sandy in the reins to make hopefully the proper decisions for guys in upper management and the GM to an extent and then beyond. So it's going to be curious how this lays out. And again, if he makes these upper management hires and they don't do well over a year, then that in my mind is where you could really pinpoint Sandy and be like, okay, he had these hires again and they fell through. So you have to blame someone at that point. And when you look at the hiring process, you would have to blame Sandy. So thank you all so much again, guys. Let me know your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this Mets content, want to see more great Mets content like this, please do not hesitate from smashing that like and subscribe on, sharing this video with your friends, put on the notification bell, all those great things. We'll be doing some more great content on the channel between in-game live streams, individual videos, and in the offseason, it's going to be endless content, collaborations as well. Everything you could think of Mets will be having. So much great things are coming on WardyNYM, and I just simply can't wait for it. So thank you again, guys. I'll talk to you soon, and let's go Mets.